Today, we're talking about everybody's favorite topic, the JFK assassination. What we all learned in school was there was a lone gunman by the name of Lee Harvey Oswald who single-handedly took out the president in 1963. The idea that one man could fire multiple shots from different locations all at the same time was apparently good enough for the majority of the American people and the United States government. What we know today is that the only connection Oswald had to killing Kennedy was that he was in Dallas on the day, and he had been in one of the buildings where the investigators say the shots came from. On the other hand, he was a patsy, as he put it, and he had never fired a gun, at least not that day. What we're left to surmise is that there must have been a conspiracy. This is The History According to Cracked. I'm Brian Morabito. Speaking of obvious things that didn't happen, the JFK assassination runs deep with conjecture, mysteries, and intrigue. How could this happen? Some might ask, how was a president who seemingly had countless enemies allowed to drive in a top-down convertible in a state with admirable gun violence records? How come both presidential assassinations of JFK and Abraham Lincoln have some eerily stupid coincidences? Both Kennedy and Lincoln have 7 letters in their last names. Both of them got married to women in their 20s. That doesn't move you. How about both presidents were shot in the head on Fridays and both were succeeded by presidents with the last name Johnson? Still not convinced this is a conspiracy? One was shot in the Ford Theater. The other one shot in the Ford. So, what can we conclude here? Americans have an insatiable appetite to believe nothing is ever as it seems. Seemingly putting a bunch of facts, coincidences, and sinister manifestations together might give us a sense of control over our really, really hard American lives. A fun party game is to sit around with your friends and just make up conspiracies while also wondering why none of us are still getting laid. Like, maybe JFK never got shot from the front. Maybe his head just naturally thrashes backward when he's scared. Or, why wasn't Jackie Kennedy injured at all, huh? Maybe she's the one who cooked up the murder of her fucking husband. Maybe she found out about her husband's affair with Marilyn Monroe, and she decided that if she couldn't have John just to herself, well, then he couldn't be anybody else's John to themselves. Isn't this such a cool, fun time we're having? Fast forward to today, where everything is a conspiracy on social media. A pizza place where pizza is a metaphor for not pizza. Celebrities drinking blood that clearly does not belong to them, and the COVID vaccine is actually a sly way that the United States government can insert tracking chips into the bodies as if we are not already closely monitored by our fucked up internet search history. Throughout American history, you can always find an era when large swaths of the population are disturbed and distrust their government. The 1960s? Well, they were no different, big boy. With most of the country abusing drugs and alcohol and the existential neuroses of impending nuclear Armageddon, perhaps any smoking gun might have sparked calls for conspiracy. How convenient that former nightclub owner Jack Ruby made the government's ability to cover up the assassination a lot easier by taking out Oswald with his own pistol moments after he was arrested to avoid trial. The theory, as it stands today, involves 3 different entities, all with a motive to want President Kennedy out of the way. With the rising fear of communism in America and the president's increasing softening on Cuba and its president Fidel Castro, it's alleged rogue elements of the CIA, along with members of the mafia and anti-Castro Cuban exiles, teamed up to take down the president. When people weren't satisfied that one guy could be capable of shooting JFK, they looked immediately at the CIA, who met the ire of Kennedy's budget cuts, firing director of Allen Dulles, and JFK's refusal to provide air support for the Bay of Pigs invasion, which was a major L for the seamen. Amongst many of the CIA's qualms is one of the most perplexing admissions that we have. I shit you not. Agent E. Howard Hunt and his deathbed confession that the government was directly involved with the assassination. Apparently, a Rolling Stone issue from April 2007 has Hunt's kid Howard St. John Hunt on record saying his father's confession included Lyndon B. Johnson, CIA officer David Atlee Phillips, Cuban exile Antonio Vinciana, and an assassin he termed French gunman Grassy Knoll, who many presume is Lucien Sarti, a French drug dealer who probably did more shooting up than getting shot. Oh, he was shot and killed in Mexico in the early 70s before an investigation could be opened into the assassination. A conspiracy, brother! E. Howard Hunt's two sons, the previously mentioned Howard St. John Hunt and, oh, come on, please say this guy's name is Mike Hunt. Damn it. It's just Hunt. Anyway, the LA Times did an investigation on these two young buck hunters and found many claims and all evidence to be largely inconclusive. Also, the Cunt brothers were often taking advantage of their Howard E. Cunt of a father as he began to lose lucidity. In order to understand how the CIA became the center of everyone's obsessive conspiracy disorder, riling up good citizens to uncover the secrets of the deep state or mailroom thieves like Pepe Silvia, we need to check out a real man named Fonzie. No. Not Richie Cunningham's leather daddy baby neighbor Arthur Fonzarelli, but a real journalist man named Gaeton Fonzi. Gaeton Fonzi was hired as a researcher in 1975 by the United States Senate Select Committee to study governmental operations with respect to intelligence activities, which became the Church Committee, named after Senator Frank Church, who chaired the committee during the year of massive investigation into intelligence abuses. Before, he did investigative journalism and wrote for a series of publications, including the Philadelphia Magazine, the New York Times, and the illustrious Penthouse Magazine. How Fonzie went from Penthouse to the House of Representatives Select Committee on Assassinations in 1977 is remarkable. He uncovered anti-Castro Cuban exile groups and links that these groups had with the CIA and the Mafia. The CIA's Fonzie uncovered testimony on Cuban exile Antonio Venciana that would begin the entire "it was the CIA who killed JFK" thing. Fonzie asserted that based on testimony from Venciana, CIA officer Atlee Phillips was found conferring with Lee Harvey Oswald. In fact, though what seems like a shitty attempt to just pretend to be Oswald and blame him for everything, Fonzie was convinced that Phillips had played a key role in the assassination of President Kennedy. Phillips was repeatedly accused of involvement in the JFK assassination by a shit ton of people. The House Select Committee on Assassinations investigated accusations from Cuban exile Antonio Venciana that Phillips had met Lee Harvey Oswald. In 1980, a book by Donald Freed and Fred Landis called Death in Washington was released, accusing him of involvement in several coups and assassinations, all while being under the alias Maurice Bishop. Phillips sued them for libel in 1986. They settled for an undisclosed amount and retracted the allegations, as did Venciana, until 2014, when he retracted his retracted statements, doubling down on the fact that Phillips was the case officer for Oswald. An FBI informant and criminal, Jack Van Lanningham, claims his one-time cellmate and bestie, mob boss Carlos Marcello, confessed to the killing in the 80s. Of course, this guy seems entirely trustworthy.
What brought me into Texas penitentiary is that I was convicted of bank robbery.
And to make matters worse, Marcello was in his 70s and had several strokes in 1989. The same year, the book Mafia Kingfish, Carlos Marcello and the Assassination of JFK came out. Talk about conspiracies. What a convenient time to have a life-threatening, horrible medical incident. The CIA was probably behind his aging as well. And why not? Why not the CIA? Why not the Mafia and Jack Ruby? I will ask emphatically once more unto the breach, why not? See, asking why not so incessantly is like Joe Rogan getting caught saying it's entirely possible about 1,000 times.
It's entirely possible.
People start talking like this when the information available hasn't yet caught up with the truth. When the world seems so chaotic that we concoct any reason whatsoever to forego a possibly life-saving vaccine and instead take a nearby dose of horse tranquilizer. Don't get me wrong, there are a ton of really interesting factoids and personalities that occurred surrounding the Kennedy assassination. After hearing them, you're probably sitting there going, everyone's writing about the government's involvement and the cover-up. I guess I can just put all these things together and I'll find the truth. But I literally just tried to do that. In front of you, you were here, and the problem remains the same. Despite the years of conflicting testimony and deathbed confessionals, there hasn't been one damning piece of real hard evidence to turn these conspiracies into reality.
So, heading west, the grassy knoll is in front of Kennedy. The book depository is behind him. But that makes sense. It can't make sense. It's the Warren Commission report, for God's sake.
That is, until right meow. We've obtained a special piece of footage that's never been made public, and we're going to show it to you here for the first time on this bullshit history show. It's a clip of a secret meeting between 3 representatives from the CIA, the Mafia, and Cuban exiles planning the biggest hit job of all time. Now, why did they record this? Who knows? Seems just about as stupid as us having this clip in the first place. Let's see it.
All right, fellas. Now let's all make sure we have the plan together. On 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. We're going to kill President John F. Kennedy in Dallas on November 22nd, 1963, just as his motorcade reaches Dealey Plaza. And we're going to shoot him from Langley angles. We're all going to blame it on some schmuck named Lee Harvey Oswald. Jinx. You owe me a Coke. Zut alors. Am I late again? Who the fuck's this guy? You guys. You can't kill Kennedy all by yourself. Let the Frenchman do it.
Wow. Powerful stuff. Hopefully you were all able to pick up on the subtleties in that clip. I know I had to watch it a few times to really get into it, but there you have it. Mystery totally solved and knowledge gained. You can rest absolutely sure that you are right and not lost down some weird rabbit hole where you're basing all of your knowledge off the one program that just so happens to fit your narrative. That's what we aim for here on The History According to Cracked. Of course, I'm not really into conspiracy theories, but I am certain of one thing. It doesn't taste anything like pennies. Don't run for president. It's a thankless job, and your head might explode. Thanks for watching The History According to Cracked. I'm Brian Morabito. How are you?